Hey, what's going on, Chris? You ready to take this one to the moon?
Oh, absolutely. And as you can see, I've got stars out surrounding me as we're recording this evening. It is interesting, though, that this last week a lot of people were out there in that zone with the moon because it got kind of almost out of control over the weekend.
Wow, what a time that we have been in. Our last episode describes so much of what's been happening, and I'm excited to do this episode because this is a relief episode for everybody. I think this is going to be a wonderful week. But also, this is about extreme changes happening in our lives where we have the control to make the changes. And we've been given a lot of karma. We've been given a lot of signals. We've been given a lot of changes to move forward with. And I think this report's going to give people a lot of clarity of where to take this.
Exactly, right. And one of the key markers here right now from what I'm observing is we've finally got Mars on the day that we're posting this video. It will finally have moved into that 1 degree position in Leo, and it's going to be a lot happier. People are going to feel more energized, and that grouchy kind of stumbling almost kind of energy from Mars and Cancer for the last few weeks is going to be lifted, and we will see things really start to speed up in a nice way.
Yeah, fire is here. I think this is fuel to a fire. I think this is 90, 92, 93 octane, in our lives. Get that 100 octane aviation fuel going because we got a lot to change, especially as we're stepping into this weekend with the sun starting to trine Pluto, which is always an awesome indication that extreme change is about to come our way. But it's also in Earth signs. We are in Virgo. So this is changes in our reality, the physical reality that you taste, smell, and feel. I mean, we're going through a lot of extreme change, and that Venus energy is finally coming into Libra without a storm. The first 12 degrees, 13 degrees of Libra is just a storm. It's like you walk in and it's an automatic storm. It's now where Venus kind of gets to chill out. So that means more peace coming, more harmony coming for us all. And I think around the world, I think this whole Syria thing is going to kind of lighten up a little bit too.
Yeah, one would hope so. But as you had stated, that Venus transit through Libra, it was building as it was getting closer to that opposition to Uranus. And so we want to point that out for our listeners here, that tension between Uranus, which is very fiery, and in the fire sign of Aries, was really like resisting that Venusian desire to be light and playful and expressive, because when Venus is in Libra, it wants to be social, it wants to get out there and have fun. So there was a really nasty dynamic going on there for the last week and a half. And now, as we're moving Friday into the weekend, we see a real nice moon in Cancer conjuncting Jupiter in Cancer. And that's going to be in a nice trine to Chiron and Pisces. So I think this is going to be a healing and rewarding weekend as we start, this new cycle.
Yeah, it's a great weekend to really feel out these new changes, get your emotions wrapped up into things, make some decisions. We do have the sun, which is sextiling Saturn right now, which is really nice coming into the weekend. So I think this leads for excellent decision making, especially as you have the emotions in this grand trine with all this water energy. There's a lot of good signs out there, and this is just really that weekend where you start to drop the hammer down in new directions. It is that Leo fire that comes in with, this is what your heart wants, go get it. But I think we need to pay attention to Mars and Leo so much as it starts to come into Leo, it's going to start to square Saturn in the North Node here. And so you have to pay attention to your actions, especially over the course of the next 2 weeks, because Mars will trine Uranus here, it will square Saturn. And I know I'm going a little ahead, but as we're starting to process things this weekend and we're going to be taking actions, I believe, in our lives this weekend, that we also pay attention to making the smartest move, making a move that's reinventing our life in the proper way. And we need to pay attention to the signs.
Hmm. Yeah, and it is going to be a social weekend. Once again, looking at that movement of Venus as it's separating from that negative aspect to Uranus, and Mars is definitely feeling energized in Leo, and then we've got a nice separating aspect with Mercury advancing beyond the Sun in Virgo. So people are going to want to communicate. They're going to want to get out and hang out, and that's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm really of the opinion that as we watch this progression of the Sun moving deeper into Virgo, we're going to see a practical aspect coming into play here. I think a lot of people have been just kind of out there looking for grounding, and I think that as the Sun hits about 10 degrees of Virgo, it's really going to stabilize. And then by the end of next week, as we're moving into that Thursday, Friday zone there, we'll have that renewal of the moon in Virgo. And that's when we'll really feel our grounding is back and we're starting a new cycle.
Yeah, it's so important, the whole build up to the new moon, because this has a lot to do with Pluto in Capricorn, because this new moon will trine Pluto. This whole weekend is the Sun trining Pluto. And this Pluto energy is extreme change. It's also power. One beautiful thing about Pluto is it's empowering. And it can actually be, I look at it as the computer reset button. This is a big reset button in a lot of our lives. I think a lot has to do with relationships. I think we've rebooted some relationships. I think that a lot of us have been brought to this very karmic crossroads here, and this is the week where we're leaving the old tracks and stepping on the new tracks, and it's powerful, and it's full of change, and it's full of growth. There's a lot of growth that comes out of this week. I think we've done a lot of shedding. I think that this is now a week of extreme growth, and if we follow the moon, for most of this weekend it's in Cancer, but it's then on Labor Day when that moon starts to pass over Mars, and there's a lot of intense feelings, and I think that we're really amped up for the week coming out of Labor Day. Most people don't want to step into their weeks, after Labor Day vacation. They hate to go back to work. They hate to go back to reality. I've got a feeling that people want to get back because there's so many things they have to do to get their lives back into the order or into the changes that have been brought before them. We've never really had a Labor Day weekend. Well, I'd have to look. I don't know this for sure, but one where the Sun trines Pluto like this intensely. So I think this is going to be a different feeling than we've ever had. And, the moon is in Leo, so I think it does spark a lot of passion, a lot of drive to get our hearts. But the moon does go into that dark phase, middle of the week in Leo, and as we get up towards that new moon, and I think we have to pay attention to a lot with what's going on, and not jump the gun too hard either.
Exactly. And, the other thing that's worth pointing out here is that we've got the activity that you were talking about between the Sun and Mercury with Pluto, but that fills out into a grand trine because we've got the nodes sitting over there in Taurus. So we've got an Earth grand trine. And when the nodes are activated in that kind of formulation, it definitely intensifies things because it brings a lot of karmic energy into play, regrets from the past, anticipation of, revenge from things you did 3 lifetimes ago. These things are going to be coming up into people's consciousness, and this is definitely a weekend where you want to have compassion, you want to be supportive of people around you, because a lot of karma is trying to play itself out here. So with that nodal activity and Pluto, as you said, sitting there in good old earthy Capricorn, it is going to be a very physical and very visceral kind of weekend. Your tribal spirit, your tribal nature will be wanting to surface.
Big time. And I think Jupiter coming off Pluto officially, I think because Jupiter now is going to be 5 degrees out of this opposition. So this really frees up so much energy, and Pluto is a very small planet, and Jupiter is the biggest planet. So you have like this really odd combination opposing themselves. It's like a marble opposing a basketball. It's very weird, but it is breaking off. So, and you talked about that last week of that tension releasing, and we haven't been able to feel that because we had that Venus energy, which directly correlates with happiness and feeling good. And this is a week of feeling good, accepting the new energy, and we do have Saturn moving ahead pretty far now in Scorpio. It's picking up a lot of speed. Saturn's picking up its speed, and the node there in Scorpio is connecting with Saturn. It's in a 3-degree conjunction now, and that's a big deal. I think there's a lot of concrete that's going to be poured in our lives here, especially building in here in September as Saturn and this node meet up here in the next couple weeks intensely. That's always it's almost like an eclipse of Saturn. I mean, that's kind of what's going on. And Saturn is all business, and it's about, you know, really building some solid structures in our lives. And I think it's interesting as we're in Virgo energy, which is all about that. And we're getting ready for a new moon in Virgo, which this whole week is the preparation for what are you going to signal and what are you going to arrange your life for in this reality? What are you going to manifest it to be like? I think there's a lot of feelings of happiness. I think there's a lot of emotions that go into every aspect of your life that you have to pay attention to as the moon goes through the Cancer Leo vibration throughout the week, which is a very personal, very important aspect of the core of our existence, of our emotions, our heart coming together. And we get ready for the end of this week that leads to a huge month because it is a new moon that does trine Pluto. And usually, whatever the new moon does, whatever aspects happen to it, they seem to play out for the whole month. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah. It definitely, you know, one of the things that I was talking about today with some friends is that you will notice in the dark of the moon, there is a period of disintegration where the old cycle that you've been in really kind of dissolves away and moves into the past. And I just noticed the Statue of Liberty is poking me in the eye there. But anyway, if we look at our birth charts also, the last 30 days before you have your solar return, you have a similar pattern occurring. So a lot of times if you're, let's say 10 days away from your birthday, you'll notice a lot of stuff in your life starts to fade away, it dissolves, it goes into crisis mode. And that's the way the universe arranges for you to experience a rebirth or a regeneration that in association with the sun pushes forward for the next year. But then each month we have these wonderful cycles of renewal, and with each new moon it pushes forward for the next 28 days for us.
Yeah, it really does. And this new moon is a good one. I think this is the harvest moon in many ways. And it's interesting to see that this new moon also is going to be pretty much almost getting close also to an opposition to Chiron. And this week we do have this opposition of Chiron building, which this is a very interesting angle to even bring up here. Is, you know, as we're really manifesting these new realities, as we're stepping into a lot of change, I think we can't forget about, you know, the allowing of things to happen. We can't forget about the spiritual access points that we need to connect with. We could get so stuck into this reality, and it can be, it could take the best of you. That Chiron is really teaching people in Pisces to learn how to channel that spiritual energy in their lives, to meditate, to listen to some music again. It's amazing on how we could really leave this reality just in a beautiful song. And I think this week, as the change comes, if you are moving, which it looks like I might be moving, so I'm using that as a good example, like it can get so intense, wear earphones when you're doing it. Or, you know, call a friend and let your emotions out. You know, I think it's so important this week for us to purge our emotions out to people, to connect to others. Now that Venus is great in Libra, gosh, some really good people are there. And with the moon connecting here, you know, I think we have to, it can be a struggle this weekend, I think, as the moon does square Venus, where, you know, we need to find ways to let these emotions out to others. We need to connect to other people. We need to allow, you know, we need to allow things to happen and not be overly control freaks either. So
right. Well, and again, that's you know, that polarity building up because Virgo does like to control things. Virgo likes to have an understanding of what's going on. It likes a sense of order. And Pisces can be such a fog bank at times that, you know, it's maddening to be around some Pisces because they are like a float, or I mean, a leaf floating on the river. They're just, you know, wherever the river goes, they're headed that way. So you do have that stress point going back and forth here. And it is going to be playing out because, as you had mentioned, Chiron is going to be activated as we get into this new moon cycle. And again, we've got a nice sextile activity going on between Pluto and Capricorn, sextiling this new moon position of Chiron in Pisces. And we've got good old Scorpio, which is going to be trining this set of circumstances, and sextiling Pluto also. So we've got a lot of fireworks going on in the chart, and I think a lot of people are going to feel complex emotions coming up, and they're going to be processing them. They're going to be lucid. They're going to be able to say, "Oh, this belongs in this box here that goes on this shelf," because again, this is that Virgo energy. So by the time next weekend is over, people are going to feel like they have restored quite a bit of unity and harmony and balance back into their lives, and they're getting things back on track in a nice way.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this is Saturn and Pluto coming closer together again in their sextile, which is going to be direct here in a great way in September with the node there, and how funny that Pluto is about to go direct in September. And Pluto is almost at its stationary position. It goes to like 8 degrees, like 50 minutes, and we're at 5 minutes. So that means Pluto's pretty much almost stopped here. Pluto's getting ready for a change, and if there is one planet that you feel during retrograde and direct, holy cow, it is Pluto. You know?
Well, you know, to give people a good illustration as to the power that this little orb is able to amplify in one's chart. I know that 90% of the people who are listening to the video, when I say Justin Bieber, their skin grackles. But the reality is, if you look at Justin Bieber's chart, he's got 29 degrees of Scorpio on his ascendant, and he's got Pluto sitting there dead bang in that position right above the horizon line. So he's emerging into the dawn. And that Pluto, if I remember correctly, is in trine to Jupiter up in the 9th house. So you can really see with people who attain a really high level of visibility in this world, we have a huge fan base, a huge following, you will always see Pluto somewhere in their chart with this sort of aspect that really dominates their chart and really opens the floodgate for popularity, for fan base, that sort of thing. So Pluto is very powerful and very important in one's chart.
It's so important. I'll be honest, I base some of my whole astrology off Pluto, and especially, you know, when you look at the times of when it goes retrograde or direct, you could just go look at that. I mean, go look at your lives in April, because that's where Pluto's been doing the retrograde motion, and so you can always be like, wow, this is a big time in my life. April are always huge changes. September is going to be, I'm calling it September to remember, because, you know, Saturn and Pluto meet up again for their perfect sextile, which I believe, because there are in flipped energies, you know, with Pluto and Capricorn, which is that Scorpio energy in Capricorn, and then you have Capricorn energy in Scorpio with Saturn there, and then they're connecting with each other, and this is the last time they connect like this, you know?
Yeah.
This is the September to remember. I'm just adding some fun, but it is. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting because, as we talked about, the future holds some really big changes and differences, and Mars retrograde and Venus retrograde. This is just going to be a really weird 2014 entrance, and this is the months of why I'm calling it concrete, that there's a lot of concrete being poured, which is great because you can move it around and form the steps and, you know, make a pool or do whatever you want with it. But once it dries, you're kind of in that for a while. So pay attention to this month, and pay attention to this week about really making some changes, but being very aware of the decisions you make and the actions you take. Don't be over dramatic. Mars in Leo wants to be very dramatic when it makes an action. You know, even me, I like want to let everybody know I'm having a move. You know, but it's like, you know, there's these dramatic events that can come out. Hence, I think the whole Syria thing is a dramatic drama show. Really, I think it's a drama show between nations right now. Sure, I know it's bad, but it's the way that it's being handled that is very dramatic. You know, people are coming on stages and wanting to say what they do, and we all are going through that now. And I think it's important as this week, as we're stepping into a new moon, that, you know, I don't think it's time to make, if you have to make some decisions in your life this week, you have the Sun and Saturn, and you have Saturn there supporting it. But when it comes to making more long-term decisions, you know, really pay attention to them. Pay attention. Be very aware of them.
Exactly. And it's going to be interesting also to watch as these heavy planets are moving further and further away from interaction with Neptune. And so now we're going to begin to see a kind of a lessening of that Neptunian influence, because every time that Uranus was interacting, or Saturn was interacting, or Pluto was you know, trining and enhancing the energy there, Neptune would like bring in a fog bank, and everybody would get halfway through the process of making a change or initiating some kind of new event in their life, and they'd forget where they were. You know, it's like the fog bank arrived, and it's like, where the hell am I? So we're going to see a lot of that Neptunian energy diminish in the month of September, and then Neptune is going to be fairly clear for a while here. The only major aspects will be when, you know, the moon aspects it in its transits, and Mercury aspects it. But by and large, more clarity, I think, for people out there moving around and trying to put some juice into new directions, into new changes, and advancing their lives.
Yeah, because this new moon that happens Thursday, well, I mean, I don't know the exact time. From what it looks like, it's Wednesday into Thursday, because the moon is in Virgo on Wednesday, building up towards it. I think it's going to be early Thursday morning when we have the new moon. You know, this one is opposing Chiron. I mean, this one's a big deal. Uh-oh, did we lose video there? No,
we're still going?
Yeah, we're back now.
Okay.
But, you know, this one is trining Pluto, opposing Chiron. And like you said, the Neptune energy, for the first time in a long time, is not connected with Pluto very strong. If you look at charts of people in the 80s, the 90s, the 70s, the 60s, they've always been pretty close, following each other. They're 6 degrees apart right now. We haven't seen this in a long time, you know? I think it's very interesting.
Yeah, it's going to lighten things up, I think, for a lot of people. The other thing with this little blip that we just had with technology here, I'll also mention that one of the things that's going on is the sun is getting ready to reverse its polarity. And so in addition to all the other activity of the planets, we've got the sun going through this 11-year reversal cycle. And that is going to add a little extra juice to things too. So we'll see technology get glitchy. We'll see, again, some of the things that have been on the back burner for a while, I think it's going to get a new infusion of energy. And we don't know exactly when it's going to flip, but we're getting very close to that point where when the poles flip on the sun, a lot of activity starts to move in new directions. So that you can factor in.
You can definitely factor that one in, especially because the Sun and Pluto are trining, and you know, this has a lot to do with just even the astrology. It's showing that there's a lot of change that is happening, and that Sun rebooting energy is a big reboot, a big change in our reality, and this is a huge reality change for a lot of people. I mean, I've been doing a lot of readings for people, and holy cow, this is huge divorce time. This is new places we're living, new jobs, new everything. We are being jockeyed into some very new places. And this week, have fun with it.
Yeah, because you'll be able to relax. You finally get to that point where you know the other shoe is not going to fall, and you can do things with a sense of, that release. Oh, I can finally let go.
What do the cards say?
Well, we're starting the cards off with kind of a interesting vibration here. The Eight of Rods, things starting to accelerate, things moving upward. Good old Jupiter in the background there in its expansive mode. So over the weekend, it's going to be kind of fun. A lot of activity, a lot of movement, a lot of Jupiterian energy. And this is also a good card for romance. The Eight of Rods is often referred to as the arrows of love. So who knows, you may get lucky over the weekend. Then when we hit Monday, we have the Eight of Swords. And this is what you were talking about briefly there. This is not really a bad card. It's just reminding us to stop overanalyzing stuff. We think ourselves into a corner. We create limitation simply by living in the mind and not in the heart. So on Monday, it's going to be important for people to stop thinking about their lives and just start, living their lives and experiencing their lives and getting back into the rhythm. Those Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you're back into the office, you're back into school, and you're going to be feeling good about it. But stop the analyzing, stop the brain chatter. The overall energy for this coming week, as we move, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, is a Wheel of Fortune, positive change, gaining some good ground. This is also a strong card in association with karma, and you'll remember I was talking about the nodes bringing karma up for us. So this is karmic payback, karmic payoff, and hopefully you've got some good karma in your bank account. You can start writing a few checks on. By next weekend, with this new moon becoming active in that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday cycle, a lot of wish fulfillment. This is the Ten of Cups, and the thing that you're holding in your heart of hearts, the thing that you are working on to manifest in your life that has positive impact on the lives of those around you, you're going to start to see an acceleration and a movement in that direction. So you could actually, with this new moon, have a big shove as far as good karma and healing and regeneration goes. And of course, Virgo is a sign of the healer. Virgo is all about the Virgin, and it's a sixth house energy. It's that career that takes us in the direction of doctoring and nursing and that sort of thing. So that Virgo energy is going to be very, very benevolent to us, I believe, with this powerful new moon when it launches late in the week.
Wow. Wheel of Fortune, baby. I'm ready for that. I think...
And the arrows of love. You'll be living out of a suitcase, traveling from one sympathetic soul to another over the weekend, so who knows, you may get lucky.
It's an interesting time for a lot of that, and it'd be great if you pulled one more card just about relationships in general, because I think now that we're seeing Venus and Libra in this pure position, I think it'd be interesting for you to pull a card and see what I think a lot of people want to know. I think a lot of people are on, scratching on the door like, what's happening in relationships? I think it's a big deal right now for us all.
Yeah, and the card is the Eight of Cups. Leave the old crap behind. Move on. There's somebody new waiting to meet you, waiting to, seduce you, waiting to open your vision up to a more expanded vision. So that Eight of Cups is not a bad card. It merely means that you finally decided to release all of your sorrow and frustration from past situations and embrace something new and exciting.
What a great reading for this week. I'm excited. The way that Ten of Cups ends us, I think, is so perfect with the energy of the new moon. I think that we really come into the weekend, like, by the end of next week, like, bump, bump, and then things get real fun. So,
Yeah.
because that's when I think the concrete's getting ready to pour. And you know, Venus is going to be on its last week here of being in of Libra, and then it's going into Scorpio. So we got some Scorpion energy coming up here in September. Things are going to get even. I can't wait. It's September to remember. So.
Yes. Well, you know, after this coming up week, Venus will be moving, I mean, the moon will be moving forward through Virgo and then into Libra, and it'll be conjuncting Venus. So next weekend, that might be a very romantic weekend for some people. So
yeah, ones that were built upon this week, you know.
That's right, exactly. So definitely, people, you need to come back and check in with us next week, next Friday night, because we will have more really interesting observations about our current times. But
woohoo!
For this coming week, it was great chatting with you, David, and I'm looking forward to an exciting week.
Me too. I can't wait either. And whew, we will see. Especially, I think this next couple of weeks are so important. And thank you for pulling that card about relationships, because I think we're all in that boat. I don't care who you are. There is some relationship affecting your life intensely right now. So it's exciting.
Yeah, and let go of the pain and the sorrow from ones that didn't work so that you can be ready for ones that will work.
Yeah, you know, I just put a thing on my Facebook today. I said, oh, you know, there's some crazy things happening in the sky. You know, you might want to write it out in my bed. So.
Oh, careful there, young man. You're going to end up having a stampede at your doorstep.
I think it's, you know, I think we all should, you know, we all have relationships and partnerships that we can build, whether they're sexual or even friendships or whatever, that we all have each other's back, and we're all in this together. And, you know, this is building towards more of a collective new age energy, and I think it's important for all of us to form together more. And, you know, we're all allies no matter what you're doing. Like, let people do whatever people are doing, they're doing, and love them for whatever they're doing, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, if they're following through, if they're committed, if they're invested, then be supportive of them. You may not have to agree with their vision, but, you know, support them in their passion and their joy.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Chris. I can't wait to see you next week, and I hope you have a wonderful week as well.
Yes, and I hope you find a place to land. It's going to be fun to hear the report.
Yeah, I'll definitely let you know.
Great.
Bye.